We experience the world around us through perception, but those perceptions can be manipulated. We're going to look at it. Whether it be first impressions or just judging the things around you, well, the things that you perceive aren't always as they seem. And the whole world has been blinded, according to 2 Corinthians 4:4. And there are a lot of manipulations that are going on to achieve that. The kingdom of darkness is about deception. It is about taking something that is legitimate and infecting it with disinformation and lies. Targeted individuals deal with a lot of, phenomena, okay? The reason you're not like one of the regular people that are walking around on this planet is because of what you're subjected to, okay? There's a reason that when you drive by the majority of dwellings in any normal neighborhood, actually, you don't see a bunch of security cameras or guard dogs or huge, ridiculous, scary-looking fences or signs, that have to do with, gun rights or whatever, and, protected by Glock. Because, people have not been subjected to that. Normally, when you get break-ins, you're dealing with thieves, right? You're dealing with people who are just there to, cash in on your goods, okay? If you drive by maybe, the poor neighborhoods or whatever where there's going to be more crime, you're going to see a lot of that because people are scared, okay? They're subjected to that. But, in regular neighborhoods, the whole idea of someone just breaking into your house to steal something, well, that relies on different things. First of all, people who do that, unless they're professional, are usually not very intelligent. So, lights and stuff like that can kind of scare them away unless they're on drugs. When you get into the more professional side of it, well, that's different. But the point I'm trying to make is that, you're the way you are because of what you've been subjected to. Targeted individuals are critiqued. I've talked about this before, that in order to get your attention so that you become paranoid and know you're playing this little game, things can get pretty intense. You get the break-ins, you get the harassment, the workplace harassment, the street theater, all kinds of weird phenomena. And a lot of people talk about synchronizations and numbers and telepathy because a lot of that is involved. Okay? People who are being manipulated like that are dealing with things that are coming from the spiritual dimension, and they're manifesting, through people or whatever. And I've talked about that before, that the spiritual dimension kind of works off hindsight, right? However that works, unless you want to look at it as manipulation, where they are just setting things up. 6 of this, half dozen of the other. You're dealing with something that you are to perceive a certain way, okay? And once they get you sensitized to that, whether it's a number or a color, we've talked about the red shirts, the red cars, or helicopters, or whatever. It doesn't matter what it is. Once you become sensitized to those things, and a lot of times they're things that you're going to run into anyway, right? And now it's going to take you back through that, trauma, induced emotional manipulation and everything else. And you're going to read into things whether they are relevant or not. It might not have anything to do with any kind of manipulation or phenomena, but you're just going to run into it, like the red shirts and so forth. But the meaning that is attributed to these things, well, it becomes, kind of the way in to your psyche, right? If somebody uses street theater on you and you have certain events that are connected with that. Or you might wake up, in the middle of the night and the clock reads a certain number, right? Everybody's dealt with that. And how are these things happening? Well, you're being manipulated. You are being intruded upon by the spiritual dimension. The viewer that asked me about these things also asked me about telepathy, okay, because that's the same thing. A lot of people speculate that the kingdom of darkness or the devil or demons or whatever cannot read your thoughts. They may just be looking from a different perspective and seeing your reactions and incorporating things together and cooking it up. Okay, but we don't know that. Or maybe they can, because they can put thoughts into people's minds. We already know that. How all that stuff works, who knows? We've had the discussion that technology comes from the spiritual dimension, and who knows what they've got, right? It might not be spiritual powers or magic or whatever. Maybe it is something that's technological that allows them to do this stuff, just like the voice of God technology or something like that, right? That can be done by anybody. And if you had that stuff back in the primitive times, 1,000 years ago or whatever, you would have been just like one of them, right? You could really mess with somebody, here, think about this. And you'd be acting just like them. You'd have the same type of power, right? So, don't be too mystified by it. And the whole idea is for you to become paranoid. So we'll just say you are dealing with different types of street theater that would lead you into the place where people are, someone who has special powers, or they can read your thoughts or whatever. Okay, well, that's something that's coming from, a type of divination, a type of spiritual intrusion or activity that is forbidden, okay? However it works, whether it's done with some kind of technological advice, or, these spirit beings have some type of ability or whatever, and the little puppets that they are controlling can do this kind of thing, or maybe things are popping into your head, right? And then they're happening, and so forth. Or, you think a thought and then somebody else says it, or whatever kind of synchronization is leading you to contemplate how all these things are working. You have to know that there is a desired effect from all this extracurricular phenomena that you are experiencing, right? There's something that they're cooking up. They want to move you in one direction or another. They want to manipulate you. They want to freak you out. In a lot of cases, they want to mystify people and get them looking in an area or believing something that's not true. And the other side of the equation, they want people to be dysfunctional so they can deceive other people or just destroy them, to manipulate them, to form them in a certain way. Because when you get the idea in your head that someone can read your thoughts or whatever, it's just like that Truman effect, okay, where you become self-conscious. And just like the person that believes that everyone is watching them, that everyone knows all the things that they're doing, they start to scrutinize themselves. They start to kind of have that mental hiccup effect, and they turn into their own worst enemy. You don't have anything wrong with you, and it causes a paranoia to the point where you're making more mistakes than usual. It's a reciprocal effect. And when you think somebody is, reading your mind, don't think something dumb, don't think about pink elephants or whatever. What happens? You think about it. It cancels it out. It's the whole, effect is that you become that dysfunctional person who is thinking about things that you normally wouldn't even consider. You'd just be minding your own business, right? But you get paranoid. And you start to scrutinize yourself. You got to realize, and I've talked about this before, You're no different from anybody else. And if somebody confronts you with that type of phenomena, or you run into it or whatever, you have to know where it's coming from. That's important. Otherwise, you're going to get led out into areas where you're deceived about things. You get all these different propositions in your mind, how people are of a different race or something, or they're, special, or, you're the odd person out or whatever. And, and they can critique your self perception and your self-esteem and all those other things to get you to kind of cower below them. And they'll use it to kind of feed off of. They want to parade around in front of you. But you have to remember the reality is that these things are forbidden. And when you're dealing with phenomena like that, you are dealing with something that is evil, and, it's going to be destroyed, right? Rather than, like most new targeted individuals, to think that somehow you're just inferior, or you've been left out, or you don't belong. No, you don't want to belong to that. You don't want to have those things popping into your mind to where you are, able to do, this weird type of activity where people are simply just interacting with evil spirits, right? Principalities and powers, unclean spirits, familiar spirits. You don't want that. That's where it comes from. And a lot of people make that mistake when they're dealing with, teachers who they have prophecies or whatever. And a lot of people, like with the Trump thing, they're like, well, you can see these people are false prophets because the thing that they prophesied did not come to pass. Well, that doesn't mean anything, because I know for a fact that the spiritual dimension can make it happen, okay? And it doesn't have to come from God. They can mess around like that. So, don't be mystified. And, if you are running into something like that, you have to know where it's coming from, and you have to know the value of it. There's a motive behind it. Okay. We'll just say that somebody comes up and uses street theater on you, and it has to do with, something that's going to happen, whether it be tomorrow, next week, a year from now, 10 years from now, it doesn't matter. The whole reason they opened their big mouth was because they want to mess with you. They want to get you into a certain, state of mind, or manipulate you somehow. And the motivation comes from the spirit world, and they are trying to move you in a certain direction. You got to look at it for what it is. You have to realize that the powers behind it are going to be destroyed. Christ is going to seal them up, into Taurus, into hell, and finally the lake of fire. You don't want to be part of that, okay? So, just remember that, and that's going to cancel out a lot of the motivation for these people. They want a reaction. They want you to freak out. They want you to become paranoid. They want you to be mystified. And whether it's numbers, or, types of things that seem telepathic, or whatever kind of manipulation it is, prophecies or whatever, just you have to know where it's coming from, and you have to look at it for what it is. And it might not be that special. It might just be, that type of time dilation or whatever. They're looking from a different perspective, and it allows them to see things that you can't, right? Just like with V2K, what is it? It's just frequencies, man. It's just technology that allows, someone to speak in a way where you're not hearing it with your natural ears, and you're just, wow, it's special. It's godlike. Well, whatever. You can look at it however you want. But you have to remember the motive, and you have to remember that, we are just little creatures running around. The Bible talks about us being little children. And when someone's trying to manipulate you, you know that their motives are evil. My advice is to ignore the synchronizations, the numbers, the street theater, and dreams maybe even that you're getting, and just realize where it's coming from and how the motive is to manipulate you. Be good to yourselves. Be safe.